Hello.
We're back.
Ladies and gentlemen, roosters and hens and everything else in between, Cock Talk is back. All four of us tonight in our
Hey,
full accompaniment. As always, from the Coop Collective, I am Tyler at MBF Express. We have Josh at Grateful Coops with his last show in the Central Time Zone.
Mm-hmm.
Congrats.
Yeah, sure.
We have Blake at Waddle Waddle Racing, Dave up north at Pecking Order Racing. Gentlemen, how we feeling tonight?
doing good. Dave, how about yourself? You doing
I'm here.
okay? I know it's a rough day today, I'm sure.
Moving sucks.
I mean,
I was talking about Canada more
Yeah.
than anything.
Right, yeah.
Canada did win a Davis Cup this morning, though. So
Oh, okay. There we go.
if
way to
only
represent.
I cared as much about tennis.
What is that? Tennis?
Tennis.
Okay, fair enough.
Tennis.
If you would have put like, I don't know, four pretty obvious ones in front of me and been like, what's the Davis Cup? Definitely would not have picked tennis. I would have gotten it wrong. Gun to my head.
Golf
Would not have
tournament,
worked.
probably.
Yep.
Yeah,
Golf tournament. I think on golf tournament, yeah. Maybe pickleball. That seems to be a big thing now in the
The
States.
Davis Cup sounds more like I don't know, like a hockey, some regional hockey cup.
Something you win at like the Dover Downs. Some
Yeah.
race car shit.
I don't know.
NASCAR.
Trust me, it's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
Get
You're right,
in there
my
and
bad.
turn left.
I've offended the Canadian. I've gone too far. So,
Man,
guys,
is that even possible?
speaking of being offended, many of us were offended at this tournament, and now they've made some changes, and I think we're all still kind of offended by it.
I've just
I
been
mean,
broke, busy, and moving across the country will do that. So I've
Yeah.
been packing and abiding by the wife and not being on my phone the entire time. So
Attaboy. Good lapdog.
which is taking a hit on my racing. So
Yeah.
hopefully as soon as I get settled in, once I get there, I'll have a whole week of doing a whole lot of nothing other than work. So plenty of racing time.
Yeah, it's a tournament that I think that's where we kind of ended last week, was maybe this is just not something that works out so well. Maybe this format just doesn't have the answer. It's better. And we saw an initial surge when they changed over some of the things. And the things they changed, as many people probably already know, they did the daily double tournament, the Thanksgiving double helpings in this case. And they added a second double up preference. So there's a terrain and a distance. And they made everything over $1 double points as well.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I think
Pretty much what I said verbatim last week.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of all like shuffled it around, and then Josh put it together nicely for us. Makes sense.
I'll take that.
But the one thing I will take from it, obviously, I
Still
woke up
sucks.
from a DM with my sister, and it's like it's still pigeonholing it too much, and that was her point. It's like it's still just like limiting races to just the two categories. Anything over $1, though, I have really liked to see that, where there's been a little bit of a push there in that $1 range. I think $1.20 is what it is. There's been some nice turnover. That's the
Have
one
they
little
been,
saving grace.
As I haven't been paying attention, have they been filling as we kind of predicted they possibly might?
Yes,
The
those ones are doing,
$1 and up races?
they're doing pretty well. They
As
really
about
are.
as normal as they were prior, before any. Well, now I got to wait for my specific spot. I feel like it would open
All
it
of
up a little
the
bit.
all of the daily challenges have done pretty well,
Right.
including the over $1. But
Good.
I still think it's a tournament or an event best fit for when there's more coops running, right? I think that's pretty much what we were saying last week.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's not that it's bad. It's just that right now, with the amount of coops currently running,
Mhm.
the incentive to hold your birds, there's just really not enough turnover in races for this tournament or event to work like it is right now. But
it's the turnover, and you're dead right
Yep.
there. Without the constant, just new a that's another thing too. The ARG has frustrated some people because people are being patient for a 2-week event, which is what it is. And hell, I'm sitting here with 2 races to go with one bird in C class, right there on the precipice, and I'm gonna sit there and wait for the next 5 days until I get the exact thing I want to run that bird, because we're all sitting being a little patient, and without that turnover, we can run an entire day of, I think it was Snow 200, and only see a handful of Snow 200s even pop up
Right.
under $1.
Yeah. And that's kind of why the up over $1 incentivizes keep filling those couple, the $1 to $2 races, just so you get that turnover of double ups, and maybe you'll get lucky and hit your preference. You never know.
I want to see actual tournaments where there are 36 birds. It randomly spits them out into however many heats that is, and then they race for a bigger pot altogether.
Well, on that note, what I'd love to do is make it a 2-week tournament. Make the first week like they've been doing it. Everyone goes in and it's the qualifiers. And then the second week, then it's like the 36
bracket
best.
Style.
Yeah, 36 best from there. Then they go bracket style. Then there's something that's a little more incentive. I know Hems is talking about heats, and like you just said, heats as well. If that first week is just qualifier, it's what they do with, like, we were talking about tennis. We might as well talk about bowling. It's what they do for bowling. Everyone just shows up, and it's whoever has the best averages, and then those guys get sent off to a tournament, and the tournament happens. So everyone gets a shot at least qualifying, and then from there, you actually break down into something a little more exciting. Because I think people will be clamoring about the idea of actually seeing this Coop versus that Coop, and then that gets buzz. That gets I can get that's on Twitter. I mean,
well, yeah, you could do Coop versus Coop. You could even just do solo chickens. Like, you just enter this chicken into this tournament, and find out whatever. There's so many different things they could do.
Well, once you have seasons, as we will soon, and once you have birds locked in classes, as we again will have soon, we will be able to do stuff like that, because you'll be able to run races without the worry of having to upclass or declass, and you won't have birds stuck in areas because, and you're waiting. You got 36 people that got to run to fill this, your bracket, right? And then to advance, all would have to run. So, I mean, this would just, accelerate it. I feel like as soon as we hit seasons and introduce something like that, that would automatically be able to work, I feel like, because all of those birds would be locked in and would be able to run those heats and races to get through that a lot quicker than trying to find these people and tagging them and, I got a D-class, someone help me D-class. No thanks.
It's still my least favorite part is the downclassing, the declassing here. Like that bird I have in C class, she's had 76 races, and only 28 of them have been in C class, just to try to downclass back down again, because it happens so quickly. That especially with these turnovers. I mean, we've kind of been looking at an issue since the Halloween hunt, where it was people went nuts. Like Blake was saying, like people go up and down like crazy, and that was fun. But people also downclassed like crazy in those tournaments too, very quickly with those 8 chicken events. And I've actually, I need to do some more research in this. I've only really done it with a handful of my birds, but since the Halloween hunt ended, it seems like we've had even more of that smash towards the middle. More of those birds have dropped down, and like we said, seasons are coming. So I'm hoping that when seasons come and we lock some things in, first one probably 2 weeks, we start seeing some things shuffle around, because the game certainly needs it. As A class has kind of become the new S class, you basically need to be high 90s to compete in A class. You're not getting it done with 95s and 94s anymore.
Yeah. Well, with that, might as well hop on into the dev blog this week.
Fire away.
So, howdy chicken peeps. Time for the weekly dev blog. Thanksgiving double helpings tournament. Got off to a good start. Excuse me. It was quite clear after the first couple days the races weren't pumping. So they made the changes as we addressed early in the show. One of the changes they're pleased to see that has been well received is double points for all races with an entry fee over $1 or more. Since being introduced, 23.3% of the races have had an entry fee of $1 or more, compared to 4.9% throughout the Halloween hunt. That's pretty good. We were expecting an uptake, but not one this big. We'll certainly be experimenting with this idea in future tournaments. Oops, wrong page. That is the wearables that you can get for, the double helpings. I'm telling you, need a musket.
I like the musket. I like adding the weapons. We'll see.
Musket
Down,
and like
we just keep saying it. See what happens.
I don't know, like a mallet or a rolling pin for like the machete chickens.
Yeah.
we've set in what our final development tasks for the year will be before starting Fusion development in January. These are wearables in-game, implement seasons and optimization on the marketplace, and reduce gas fees. I like all that. Absolutely.
Yep, that's
Fusion,
all
Fusion in January?
Well,
That's soon.
Development. I saw that. Yeah, Dave said it. Development.
Yeah.
doesn't
I
mean
know.
we get it.
I get it. But maybe
I know.
beta? Maybe a little beta?
Maybe
a little beta action?
I imagine it's not just something they're going to start working up from the ground floor on January. It's probably development of it into the actual system. But still, yeah, my expectations are tempered. I'm still thinking if we're getting it in January, it's going to be the back end of January. But still, there's more details here.
I will step in and throw 2 chooks to the fire to test that bitch out.
Absolutely.
Just gotta get your serum first.
Yeah, it depends on the price, buddy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is the hot topic of the week.
It's a tough one here. Go for it.
So, in the new year, Fusion. Hang on. I missed a little something there. Sorry, I got my mouse on the wrong side. Couple of glamorous things, couple of necessary technical things. There may be 1 or 2 other things we'll drop should we have the time, but they are our main goals. Fusion design. In the new year, Fusion will be coming. The ability to take 2 chickens and form them into 1. Part of the Fusion will be the introduction of the Fusion Serum, which is essential to perform fusions. Fusion Serum will become available through Mint, but also rewarded through tournaments and events. 2 Fusion Serum are needed to perform a fusion, 1 for each chicken being used. When 2 chickens are fused, each trait they have has an equal chance of appearing on the new chicken. So if one is a Sultan and the other is a Dorking, each heritage has an equal chance of appearing on the new chicken. Should you want to guarantee that trait appears, you can pay to lock it in. It can cost up to 25 Fusion Serum to lock in a trait, depending on its rarity. So it's up to the payer to decide if they want to take the risk of random fusion, or guarantee that the certain trait is passed on.
Yeah.
So is Fusion Serum $10?
Well, okay. Here's what this is what we're looking
at. Limited?
First thought in my head was I hope it isn't necessarily the type of mint where they hope to mint out quickly. I hope it's something that's on demand as wanted.
That's what I was just going to say. This feels like something that would just kind of be like a faucet.
Yeah.
Right.
Can I
but
go mint 50?
Does Fusion Serum...
Is there a limit?
Does Fusion Serum get more expensive as it goes? Like a certain amount of them minted? Boom. Oh, we hit a threshold. It's time to get a little more. I don't know. I'm just curious. Or is it the same always? Always the same?
But I think it has to be cheap. When Blake said $10, like the first thing I thought in my head
was... $250 for the maximum trait. So if you can lock in 2 traits, you're spending $500 to fuse those birds with 2 for sure traits.
So my first thought was 0.01, because that's right around $10. So it's right where you were thinking. It's still a little like it's tricky. Like any new mint right now, any asking of new money from the community right now is a bit of a bummer. But I also understand it can't exactly be free.
Well, it depends.
How many people would roll them for $20?
Yeah,
got to think about this though too. If there is a reward-based system based on the amount of races ran, possibly you could be entitled to X. I mean, I would think this would be a great suggestion if they're not thinking about it. But tie it to the number of races. You're allowed to get X amount of Fusion Serums right off the bat. I would think like something like a free mint or something. And then once people can start trying it out after they've messed with it a little bit, then I don't know, what do you guys think? $5 to $10? Seriously, you can't. I don't think you could go much higher than that, could you?
Yeah.
If it takes 25, that's $250 at $10 a pop.
$20 to just do a random fusion seems about right, but also if to lock in a black hole with whatever other.
See now you're getting to the point. If you want to take multiples and lock in something very special, it's going to cost 25 again and 25
Up to.
again.
So
It
just
can
the
cost
middle
up to.
ones,
So I would
like,
think
to
the
lock in
rarer
strikes
stuff
would be like 15 or
Yeah.
the
20.
rarer stuff is going to be, I would think, upwards of 25.
Yeah.
Like
So
black holes and classics
so
or
on
heritage
its, on,
even. Hell, you never know. Heritage may be
Well,
scaled that way.
if you want to, okay, that's the tricky part here. If you want to fuse two Saramas, one of them, and you want a 100, one of them has to be a 100, which is kind of insane. So really, what you're doing there, if you're taking a 100 Lackenfelder or a 100 Dorking and you're fusing it to Sarama, I imagine that 100 is going to cost 25 in order to lock in on the Dorking. And then if you want to lock in the Sarama, that's probably also going to cost 25 because that's the highest heritage you can lock in. Or is heritage something we can lock in?
Keeping in mind there's 3 groupings.
think
You
you
can't
could-
lock in heritage and perfection at the same time, right?
Okay,
Oh yeah.
fair enough.
But you
So-
could lock in heritage, base body,
Yeah.
and talent.
So there's still, if it does come out to be like 250, $500, the kind of thing, you're still rolling the dice a little bit. There's still that dice roll in there, but I if you make it too much more per serum, then you are looking at like, why are people going to do it? Now, as Ross said, very simple. It can be free, just earn through racing, and I really hope they really incentivize that part of it. If you make people that race, they get them.
Yeah,
If you race, you get them.
I like Josh's take too, but one thing too they could do is those daily events or weekly events. Either we've been talking monthly events. There's so many, use your talent 5 times in a week. Your talent goes off, whatever, you get a one serum.
Achievements, things that you need to achieve.
Yeah.
Little things like that. Yeah, they matter. I mean, little things to strive for, because you don't know. You might have to run 10 races to get one talent to go off.
I will say it has been suggested that right there. Just little daily, weekly little things like that. 10 races, your whole coop, you locked in, you get something. You could get into just that. You could get some fusion serums, you could get breeding tokens or whatever down the road, or into giveaways. I mean, you could do a lot of things with that. And
here's the thing though, if they're gonna have a token, why not make it that instead of the fusion serum? Because I could also see like tokens being used to buy wearables and things like that we've talked about in the past. But to me, this is another form of currency a little bit.
Yeah, you're mutating. Think of it like how like Bored Apes use the serum to mutate their apes. This is simply just taking an NFT and using it to fuse the two into one, and then once you have food, the food's also NFTs. So this is just another layer to everything that they're building.
The in-game currency, the token, if you will, that's going to take some time, and I think it should. Certainly, I think it needs to be, if ever, right? But it needs to coincide with land, I believe, because obviously I think that's the way that you can earn it and use it and spend it. Making it just a mintable NFT, it's pretty simple. Once you use a serum, you burn it. So I mean, if it's just that's kind of like when you said a faucet for this kind of thing. Like you go there, you mint one, it's yours, you move on. I would imagine they'd be unlimited, right?
What's that?
Like that I imagine they would be unlimited. I don't want it
Fusion
to feel like there's
serum. I would think so.
I don't want it to feel like that there can be a run on these where everyone can just jump in and hoard a bunch of them and then set the market. Like we don't want that. That's not going to help anything. So
I don't think we need this to become a valuable item.
Right. Other than the value
practical
of the
item. That's where its value lives.
$10.
Yeah. Right.
So if they're going to put a limit on the supply, make it enough to fuse every spicy chicken in a pairing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's and we're seeing things here like talking about the token. Just seeing Alrad saying tokens kill games more often than not, usually drop 90+%. And it's very true, but Sambo says a native token, something that's just an in-game currency.
Yeah, that's all we were
here. That's it. Yeah,
not a shitcoin.
Right, 100%. That's what it should be. And to take it, and this Hems brings it up because it's 100% true. It's what the crypto unicorns did. He said, "Give us all loot boxes." That was a really fun part of the early days when Josh and I were in crypto unicorns. Is that they gave you loot boxes just for owning
Shadow Milk.
That's it, just for
and that
owning.
too.
Yeah, the Shadow Milk and whatnot, and then they also made it so
they
you
dropped
could
a bunch of token Shadow Milk token just for holding, like having land, having corns, whatever, like 500 to it was a bunch of different random numbers. of that
Yeah.
token that you could exchange in to get loot boxes or eggs. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I like that you could send for 24 hours. You send your unicorn into the something forest. What was it? It wasn't the dark forest. It was something like that. And after 24 hours, you come back. You have a certain amount of unicorn milk, and obviously you can use that. So it's basically just staking. So I like that concept. I think that can work. The daily challenges. There's all kinds of. Even if this game never exactly ends up on a mobile gaming situation like iTunes Store or Google Play or anything like that, still installing those mobile concepts where you come back and check in and need to do that. They're essential. They make so much sense. They bring us back. I watch people. My wife plays this silly game called King's Choice, and good God, the amount of money that some of these people drop into this game, and it means nothing.
Yeah.
They just have money, and they just want to be the most richest lord in this game, and they will drop tons of money to play these things. So when you actually give an incentive like this and something, and you make it, these quests can be earned and achieved and whatnot. I want to see it. Like racing and more, and racing obviously incentivize the racing, but you can do that through all these little achievements they could be installing, and that's what I was kind of hoping was coming with land. And obviously we're still some time away from that, which is fine.
Yeah. But something we're not that far away from, wearables and races. As the video was playing there a little bit ago, as choppy as hell, as you can see, wham, that's why we can't race. The chickens were wearing wearables, but I did see Sambo in the chat notice none of those chickens are wearing capes. I hope they are not just a static image. I hope they are waving, but that's probably something they probably got to work out a little more detail on. But damn, that looks good on the podium. Got a little Frank here on the lack. That looks perfect. Yeah. Caesar outfit.
Yeah, we were talking about like the can of corn. We'd love to see that, the front flap going up and down a little bit. Like, yeah. Hopefully those are just little cosmetic things they can install as we go.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, the first iteration here, it's not very dynamic, but it's still fun to see.
So the user interface is done and working well, but we still have some bugs to work out. A couple of the wearables aren't rendering, which causes the race to crash, and a few of the talent animations need adjusting so that they play correctly with the wearables. But we expect to have this released to you very, very soon. Community questions. What's that?
So 2 varies.
Yeah, very, very.
Yeah.
So this week?
Yeah. Question from me.
Some weird guy.
Yeah, some weird
number
guy.
5839.
We talked about this last week, but yeah, Sultans. The question was regarding Sultans and their distance reference. Are all Sultans distance preference and boost on 180 or 200? 180-200, excuse me. Or do Sultans have a preference short, medium, long, and also have a preference for 180-200? Meaning Sultans could have multiple distances. That's kind of where I was going with that, which would be kind of cool, a little unique. I don't know, could have some real specialists, but Deli's answer was all spicy Sultans distance preference is long, giving them a boost on 180-200 meter races. They have an enhanced distance preference strength that gives them a higher than average boost when running in races of their distance preference. There is no other stat or boost applied to Sultans regarding the distance of the race. Thank you.
Now, there's one word here that stands out and is kind of, Josh, it's kind of where you're getting at it, and they've said it here, spicy. All spicy Sultans.
Yes.
You specifically put in spicy. So I do believe we were kind of talking about how could that work? How is every single Sultan from here on out going to have that preference? Now they might still have the preference, but maybe it doesn't line up. So you don't have a great robust Sultan. I guess we'll see how that looks, but at the moment, at least we know every Sultan that we have in the game right now that is spicy, 180-200, they love it. They want to run it. After that, we will see.
If you breed 2 Sultans together, I imagine that it would still have that.
Yep.
Smart breeding,
so
right?
You're just breeding. You're breeding in that other trait is the reason why it's not.
Yeah. But if you fused a Sultan and a Dork, possibly you could come out with a different distance preference still in a Sultan.
Sorry, I just read the live chat. They were talking about emotes on the podium, and Sambo wanted a teabag one.
Yeah.
Just seeing a chicken popping. Sorry.
Anyway.
Continue.
Some R-dogging. Do chickens have a stat for higher stake races, i.e., do certain chickens perform better in higher dollar races compared to cheaper ones?
No.
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 That concludes the blog for this week. Thank you to all the loyal racers. We love hearing your feedback and ideas and how we can make Chicken Derby better. Happy racing.
Okay, so now we need to just kind of collect ourselves and move a little bit back towards just, is there anything more with the fusion we kind of wanted to touch on there? Obviously, it's going to cost something. We'd love to see some incentivization for racing to get it. We've been asking for a long time, what will be the benefit for being the long-term holder? Like, where is it coming from? What are we here? What are we going to get for it? The idea of a loot box airdrop, something of the sort, makes tons of sense, especially with food, with fusion. It's all right there. It doesn't cost them a dime to give it to us, and it gives us incentives. It gives us, reasons.
It lets us break it in. It lets us break it in, test the wheels, break it, do what we need to, make some cool shit, and we earned it. And it's not something that we have to dump more into,
Yeah.
Here's another thing about small airdrops like that. That entices other people to get into the game too, because they see that, and that just is a little bit of, oh, okay, that's cool.
I mean, not to touch on a sore subject, but that's when airdrop was mentioned for holding chickens. That is the thing that brought Cuppy in. That's what when he saw that, he went and bought like crazy. That is absolutely the kind of thing where people see, oh, a airdrop something for free for just holding this. I can do that. There's a lot of people that own chickens. Hell, Josh had a very strange conversation with a guy when, I think he talked about this a few weeks ago, where he's just like, yeah, I'm looking at your chickens. And he's like, yep, I'm probably never going to do anything with these until they go up, or they'll just die in my wallet.
Yep. And I said, well, the game's going. And then we talked about that, and I explained him to the game and where it's at. And he's like, oh, I'll have to check that out. And I'm like, you definitely should.
You definitely should. But yeah.
Don't just let those birds die in that wallet, man.
Yeah.
Some good ones in there.
Redhead Kingpin was at Ape Fest, and he met a guy that was like, oh, yeah, I minted like 40 of those. And he was like, oh, what's your coop name? He goes, oh, I don't race them. They're just sitting there.
Yeah.
They're just sitting there.
Just minted them.
I was minting them. I was like minting shit, he said. So it's like
it was a different time.
Yeah, it was a different time. But I even asked Josh after one of the shows recently, like, how many chickens do you think will never be raised? How many spices do you think will never be raised? And would you be shocked?
They've sat so long, and just the landscape has changed. Like, how many of those wallets are just dead now?
I said I'd be surprised if we ever saw 50% of this population ever race.
I agree with that. I think there's quite a few that are just in dead wallets, forgotten about.
Now, some of them may just get, so obviously if the game does succeed and the game takes off and the birds do go up, some of those birds will get dumped and sold.
Sure.
And then there will also be those that will just be held for breeding and in-game stuff and never raced, because that's the mentality that they want to have. And that's fine. But I seriously, 33,333 chickens, that's a lot of birds.
Yeah. But they've also done something weird, interesting here, is that depending on how many birds are just going to die on the vine and never really come into the rotation, and then we're going to fuse spices, it could actually turn into a bit of a sustainable total for those spices sitting around. So
now, I have a question. How many races were flowing and how many horses were racing in Zed when breeding started kicking out? Because there were, breeding took off and it was just insane.
Mm-hmm.
So what was the volume like of racing with Zed and after breeding when you've got 200,000 horses out there? I'm curious how many different horses were racing and like how many, because I understand that the mentality is a little different there once we get to breeding with the raced versus unraced, and how, like, I guess we, like Tyler and I and you guys think we would prefer the raced birds to breed with, but yeah, I'm just curious. I'm curious. I'd just be curious to see that volume to horse ratio.
Right. But
I imagine it would. But like, if
they also had the curious situation of just the bull market and a very timely article from a big time influencer that wanted part of it.
Here's something to think about. What if they did something, and this might be kind of controversial. What if, in order to breed, you had to have raced a bird? X amount of times.
Well, we've been talking about that. They
have unlock it. We have the idea of unlocking the breeding or unlocking certain things through racing has
that
been
would kind of
discussed,
take care
even
of
in the chicken derby
wallets,
chat.
right? That would kind of take care of those dead wallets that are just sitting behind. They're just waiting on us to filter and fund the game, and they're going to just suck and filter off it on the back end. You know what I'm saying?
If you're looking for a mechanic to try to, keep that from oversaturating, that's certainly one of them. I mean, not everyone that buys into these projects want to participate in them, and I guess that's okay. There's always going to be a segment of people. You kind of want that segment of people still within a project just to be there for, if nothing else, just support of, minting a project. But
now, do I think
we do?
Sorry, I'm bulldozing you right now. Now, do I think the game could be successful with only half that population doing anything? I do. Because in theory, if the if we all complained about it, like we say, they minted too many chickens, there's too much of a population. Well, if only 15,000 of them are actually even doing anything, then
not even that right now.
Yes, while the value in the numbers isn't really there, it's still
the true population of coops running and chickens being run. It's not even 10%, I wouldn't think, right?
I think it's like that's how many have ran.
I think there's what was the number Ben F saw? I think it was around like 1,600 birds or 1,500 birds have one race at least.
Yeah.
Like I would like to know how many
insane.
have over 100 races.
Yeah, it was also a very curious amount of birds that only had one race. I thought that was just a strange one in general. Someone raced it once and then walked away. Like
that might have been just when one race chick
for
so
beta
just did one chick race and stopped.
Yeah. Or did we have to race the chicken to be in beta?
We had to race.
Not that it would have been reset. He wouldn't have been looking at that.
No, for anything. No, nothing like that. So, yeah, I'm not sure that it's just a curious one. I couldn't quite put that one together and figure out why exactly only people have only done one race and why there was curiously so many.
I think the point is if we did kind of get it to where the coops that are, the original coops and the original birds, and those are the spicies.
Well, you got to imagine. Sorry, go finish your thought.
Well, and we kind of not weed out the ones that aren't being used, but kind of that way we can get some of these birds have brand names around them, right?
Right.
Yeah,
and so as time goes on, they're going to hold a pretty large weight of the lineage, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we're only playing with, as we said, less than probably about 5% of the birds, right? So as these move on, somebody's going to come in down the road, chances are and have better birds than what we've got now. I mean, that's just the reality.
For sure. I think you could look at the numbers of, so say, take out, you don't even have to take out all the birds with one race. So take that number of all the birds that have at least one race in the game since we've reset all the stats, and then take it a step further and look at those coops and see how many birds are in the coops as a whole. Because not everybody races all their birds. There's some coops out there that got 200 some birds out there.
Sure.
So like that would be a number I'd be interested to see is the number of birds in the coops even held by the chickens that have raced, just to see what wallets are even active, to see how much of the population is being held by a somewhat active user.
Yeah, and maybe it's not so much the birds not being active, it's the coops not being active, because as you said, there's some coops that have 200 plus birds that aren't running any of them.
Yeah.
Like on that note, I gotta give it up to Parsnips Are Forever. I don't think they've ever had more than 5 or 6 chickens in their entire coop, and they have 6,000 races.
Wow,
it's amazing. Like I see that coop racing all
buying and
the
flipping.
time.
Yep, buy, flip, and race.
But then I bopped in, and I was just like, "How many birds does this dude have?" And it's like, "Nope, 4 or 5 birds." Army. It's amazing. Like the guy just races the crap out of those birds, which is cool. So not everyone quite has that. I mean, I'm at 52 birds now, and I'm at the point where I'm close to Cluck Norris. I think I'm only like 5 sultans away or something like that. But I almost want to send them all to another wallet just so I stop looking at them. So I stopped thinking about using them. So they're just not in my rotation anymore. And I can just race the ones that I know make me money because it's something else. But yeah, it'll be like Blake said, weed out. Like we don't necessarily want to weed them out, but we do kind of want to, shift around a little bit and get and incentivize the people that have been
There
here.
you go.
and hold
That's
it.
the
Yeah.
main key. How, and that started the question, is how do we incentivize us that are still here, that have been here this whole time, still continuing to fund and feed this game? How do
Yeah.
they incentivize us?
Right. Oh, it looks like I'm banned from Cluck Norris, according to Hems.
Figures.
I'll find another way in. Don't you worry.
There's always eyes.
There's a rat.
There's a rat. I got a couple.
So again, do I
Anyway.
think this game succeeds with the current population of birds? I mean, we need to get more wallets running, of course. Absolutely. Yes, every day. As many as we can. But yes, I do feel that we can. And I hope that once, like Fusion starts in January, that can kickstart something. And then we'll get some news. We'll get some food, some edibles for our chickens and get them kicked in and start getting those tested out. And then who knows, the prospects of land and owning stadiums, all that stuff.
Right.
Next year could be a good year.
I'm hoping the Fusion serums, we all saw Mint. And that I know every person that saw Mint
got land flashbacks.
Every one of them had a weird gut reaction of just like or some of us just flat out angry, which I get. There's a lot of people that we've seen in the chat tonight. There's a lot of people saying like, I can't justify putting another $1 into this game for other things than the chickens. At this point until we see the use case for it. But
I think it's like
I'm hoping.
I think
just
like
if I can finish, just real quick. What I'm hoping is that if you want a serum, shut up, my turn. If you want a serum, it's very attainable through racing. And you might have to race a lot, and you might have to do a bunch of things to get to it, but it's attainable through racing. You don't have to buy it, but if you want to skip the line and just go buy one, you can.
Here's how
so
I
if it's
feel
something
about
like that, I'd be much happier with it.
So once we get Fusion and we're ready for serum, and once we have food and stuff like that they're, this is when I feel like they need to repay us for the airdrop that was supposed to happen and was supposed to be given to us. You could scale it. Seriously, you could scale it to who's holding chickens. Those people get something, not much, but a little bit. And then you scale it up to the people that have been active and included in the game ever since the beginning and hustling and racing and grinding. And you just disperse out as much of that stuff, the consumables, the Fusion serums, all that stuff, all in a big airdrop. Thank you. Have fun. Let's test it out. Let's go.
I would love to see it.
I would too. And I feel like, the chat's kind of saying it. And I feel like the community has earned something like that. And, there are people out there that have been soured because there has not been an airdrop yet. And I know they're out there, and I feel like this would be kind of a good way that we would just make not so much an amends, but like this could be something that would get people excited again. The idea of getting a bunch of stuff, even just for holding, for racing, all of it. I really think if they could get that and just market not so much market the shit out of it, but get the word out there, shout it from the rooftops, get the people excited again of like, holy shit, I got some of these chickens. What do we do with them again? Oh, well, I get something just for holding them since the beginning.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
And if they actually want Fusion to happen, they got to get those serums out into people's hands. Like, ideally, one per chicken in your wallet, so that you could do a basic fuse right off the bat if you wanted nothing locked in, and then make me spend money if I want to lock something in. Or I'm fine with that.
Or one per like certain raced chicken. That way we're not just sending, ones to dead wallets too. But then again, if it's dead wallets, it's dead wallets, not going to be used anyway.
Hey,
there's some racing. Yeah, some racing qualifier there would be kind of nice.
They could still get something, even if it's just, even if it's a fraction of what people get for racing. You know, you've got 1,000 races, 5,000 races, 10,000 races. Hell, I know there's a couple Coops out there that have cracked the 20K race mark. I mean, those people should be rewarded for all of that grinding, and if it has to be, and it has if it has to be a bunch of fusion serums and a bunch of different food from the game that's coming to that they can sit there and play with different food, experiment, like make the sandwiches, make the bars, make all the shit, or trade it in on a marketplace. I mean, it's right there like that.
Well, a couple of things from the chat that were interesting. Like I've seen this sentiment a couple times, and I know Sambo said it before. It's like, I'm not happy to race my shit chickens and have them lose money, but I would be happy to have them do a whole bunch of other stuff, mini games, the farming, all that. That's all the use case that is coming. So we are excited about that part of it. I think that'll work. I saw Mr. Budget. This is not really on brand for his name, but he says, I want a casino, but not monetary value. Things that you can only gamble on, things like the in-game currency stuff. Anything to get us in, like if you could walk your chicken into a casino and you know, be like, I'll throw
got 9 bushels of corn.
yeah, who knows?
Like the daily spin
on the table.
Hey, maybe that's where they could partner up with pirates and get the plunder wheel set up in Chickenverse, and you could spin to win chicken stuff. I mean, hey, it's right there. That'd be a good partnership to talk out.
Yeah, there's things there that will bring people in, because the truth is, why would people want to spend time in your metaverse? Well, they don't really want to spend time in your metaverse. They want to spend time doing stuff that you make available to them. And if it's in your metaverse, then great. You know, but that's what it comes down to. Give people the reason to come in the front door every day and stick around for a minute. Like we can say hi to each other in the Discord, but you can only take your free spin for the day. If you take your chicken, you walk them to the actual place, you walk them in, you check in, you do what you're supposed to do.
A spin per
chick. Make it sticky. Yep, make it come back, make it sticky, make it something you have to show up for. And of course, you know, and continue to incentivize the racing. And yeah, there's a lot there. And
not to mention, seasons start in a week. Not even, or should be, in December. Well, so, I mean, with that happening and the new PO system that we're going to be having, which I'm segging into now, is that we know we wanted to talk about the possibilities of how that's going to look. I know Tyler and Blake were kind of talking about this earlier. We know the system will have to change. I don't think, like you guys were saying, it can't be 4-2-1.
Well, here's what we do know, and this was I'm like 99.9% certain this was confirmed by Delhi or Apex during one of the AMAs. Each position will have a numeric value, it's not it won't be like that. It won't be the 4-2-1 and nothing. So each one will have something. So the options started rolling through my head of, okay, is it going to be like a 6-4? Is it going to be 6-5-1? 6-5-4-3-2-1, and then reverse back the other way. Big shifts are happening with that. Obviously, 6 up and 6 down. But then again, we're not moving in and out of pecking orders anymore until the end. So it's
the big
okay
shift
to have
doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't.
Your lax, though, that finished 1st and 12th would end up just being 6th, right?
A little tricky, right? So if the lax just end up sitting where they should, because they are such, you know, crazy birds. So there's a little bit of a thing there. Should there be an incentive? Should it be more points for like maybe 6, 4, 2, 1, 1, 1, and then 1, 1, 4, 3, 5? So it's not as much on the back end,
right? What that does is, this is kind of, we've been talking about de-incentivizing downclassing, right?
Yeah,
and that is how you would de-incentivize it. Is you give 12th through 10th place all 1 minus 1. That's pretty drastic, but just to paint an example. And then you would just scale it up from then. So you move up pretty quickly, but you move down very slow.
There's something there to it, because you have to. The problem we do have, the one problem that we know outright, is the downclassing has been exposed in some way. And I think there was a big part of that.
Some birds.
I think we had what was that?
For some birds
still can't do it.
Some birds still can't even sniff a down class for their life.
You have a downclassing problem for a certain segment of the population, and then you have some birds that just won't do it, and most of them are Saramas. So when we're looking at this back and forth of how to handle that properly, you find yourself kind of thinking like, we do want these things to sift out properly, but I do think the Halloween hunt, the way those chickens just flew up and down the ranks with only eight bird races, really did change stuff and accelerated a problem that we already had.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing, go ahead, Dave.
The other thing to keep in mind is that with no in-season downclassing, you don't technically need negative points.
Right.
You could only give out positive points
leaderboard
for good finishes, and it's all about accumulating leaderboard points theoretically.
That's actually true. So you could start, you could just make it 12-1. You're right.
Yeah,
it's literally
that's
what I was going to say.
I said it. There's a points champion who has the most points at the end of the year. The bottom 20% move down, the top 20% move up.
Yeah,
I mean, that's how I would
certainly simplifies it. Yep.
Yeah, to use the soccer example, right? Fewest points at the end of the season gets relegated.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. Makes sense. And you know what? That's very trackable. And it makes it easier to track. You don't have to look at it and be like, all right, I got negative points here. I could lose points. It's like, no, you can only gain points.
This goes back to what we were saying as far as if you're going to go to seasons, it pretty much eliminates pop, right? You just have the need for a leaderboard, and now you just need to determine what place does each point, how many points do you get for each place?
So the only thing on that, the only thing that I just popped in my head is there's probably going to be they said this before, there will be a threshold you have to hit as far as races in order to qualify for relegation or promotion.
Sure.
If that let's just say it's 50. So you run 50 races and now you have one of the lowest scores and you've done it properly, then you could just sit there and not race, right? And you're going to be in the bottom. So should there be a penalty? Should there still be the opportunity to lose points and drop down? Or are you just going to be like, all right, you gamed it properly, you ran your 50 races, you did it as cheap as possible, and you get the downgrade?
Well, as long as they've set the race qualification right amount. And I think that's where it gets sticky. I think 50 might be too low. How long is the season? A month, right?
Yeah.
So
the first one will be 2 weeks, but yeah, they were thinking.
Okay, so 50 maybe in 2 weeks is pretty strong.
Doable, yeah, very doable.
I mean,
that's a lot, but yeah,
I think you're gonna see. You gotta have money to race too.
Yeah.
So getting birds, especially coops with say 10 birds to run 500 races in 2 weeks. Most people aren't even going to qualify most of their birds.
That's fair. I mean, yeah, throwing at 50 was literally just the round number.
You have to make that qualifying number a certain low, like 25 or something like that. But there's no limit to it, right? So like you can keep racing, keep racing, and whoever has the most point. Like I feel like while pop isn't really going to go away, it'll still be a class that you're in. I feel like the number system that we have is going to go away because if they do it based off of the points like we were just talking about with the most points and the lowest points, that is the score for the season. And once you're qualified for the season, you are in the hunt wherever you are. And whether you stay in A class, you're going to stay in A class. But if you don't qualify, you're just going to stay in that class. And I still like Allriad's idea of if you're not running those birds, then the qualifying goes lower and slowly starts to go lower until you are forced to actually start racing that bird. But there still needs to be a threshold for the lowest amount of points in that scenario. You get what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like you can't just run 50 races and have 50 points and you're at the bottom. And then these, but you know what I mean? I don't know.
And on the other end of the spectrum, which matters a lot, and it's actually apropos that this guy named James asked the question anyway. It's all about incentives. What are the incentives to keep going? Why are we doing it now? The badges are great. Hopefully they look a little better. I'm sure they will as they go. The badges are great, but some of the things that Wham said here is like unique wearables, rake system. We've talked about that.
Yep.
The whole community's talked about that more than a couple times. Less rake for higher up in the classes because why not incentivize you getting up there? Obviously tokens or other in-game fusions. I even had the thought of like, unique wearables. Like, what about customizable wearables? Be like, I want this. Like, you want a tournament, so I want this. And
I
make
still
it
like the idea of like satellite events. Once you hit the threshold, you are qualified to run in a certain event that is like no rake at all or something, or a higher payout for certain things.
Yeah.
Cool races like that you have to qualify for by hitting a threshold to get into. Like, that is where it's at.
One thing about finishing on the bottom is if there's more of a benefit to finish on bottom than there is to try and win, people are going to always try to do that down class, whatever that is.
Yeah.
So whatever they do, there should be a tremendous incentive, maybe for the top 100 birds that end up in a season, even get a wearable or a prize, right? They should expand that out. That way people are actually fighting and they're not just giving up at 10. Because if you think that you can get in the top 100, 150, whatever that is, I'm going to keep playing. I'm not going to try and downgrade.
Yeah. Now Sambo says here that they've said the satellite events require a lot of new coding. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, could they?
And hopefully that's something down the line we can look at.
What about?
So I was just going to say, could they?
What about a ticket?
Could they?
Like that DraftKings does a ticket.
Well, I was just going to say, could they change it to make, well, not change it, but could they make it just like any of the other events, and it goes on a certain day, right? Or
that was the same concept earlier when I said make the first week qualifiers and the second week, the actual tournament, if you will. It doesn't have to be something completely like, brand new, but like Sambo said, run it manually. I know that's a little labor intensive, but that's the kind of thing that's going to get us really into it.
But they could also do it manually 1 week, or write that code and then reuse it. It could be the same style and satellite. You have to qualify to get into these type of races while at the same time you're still filling other races, but these have, like I said, more incentive to get into them. Maybe they're 8-bird races with bigger pots. I don't know, something like that.
Couldn't they just do it to where they, like I said, drop you a ticket and you spend that ticket when you sign your race entry? So only people that can get in that race are the ones with that eligible ticket. Why would they have to change any coding differently, other than maybe changing a little bit of the
you're adding
entry?
a ticket system that would
and
require
now
a lot
saying
of
that's
extra
like they're worried about the smart contract, so obviously they need to code that properly, and that's where we're looking at there. The manual part of it's doable, but
I just think if they kept the same concept of how they're running like the events, like you have to run 50 races, and once you hit 50 races, you are like either done or qualified, bam, and it shows it right on the site, and then maybe that's an extra tab that now unlocks on your screen. I understand extra coding, but something like that they could get set up and then reuse. I don't know. We'll see.
No,
baby steps, though.
I like the concept. I think it matters. But if we're not relying on satellites and we're not doing it that way, then they still need to find ways to make that moving up something that we're actually trying to achieve. And glory and being a champion and putting your bird as a champion next to your bird, that'll matter. It's not like it won't matter, but will it matter enough? Is it enough to get you to that point where you actually jump up to something else, where you actually think, I want to keep racing, I need to keep racing?
Sydney Cove's got a good idea.
This is interesting. Yeah.
How about in seasons? If you finish in the top 20%, you get a token NFT, which gives you entry into a free race with a $50 prize pool. Then everyone in the top 5%, a free token into a $200 prize pool race. And yes, I think that is something that would be awesome.
I like that.
I got an idea for the downclassing. Could they have an event where the bottom, let's say 30 or 40%, the last few days of the season, they have an event, and whoever wins those events gets to downclass? So you're taking the worst birds of the season, and now you're forcing them to run like to the win
bottom.
In order to downclass.
So you take like the bottom 25% and then make them duke it out for the bottom 20%.
and that they have to win to down class. So it's not the bottom.
Yeah.
You don't get
these
it.
Are all
losing.
are all ideas where like it's like these micro games, these micro events. They make sense to me. As long as they can work out the smart contracts for them, they can make sense to me to keep these ideas pushing forward, because that's what makes it fun. That's what makes it you not disconnect. It's like, oh, I got to my 50 race, I got to my 30 races, I'm in the bottom, I'm good, see you later. I'm good with this bird for a while. No, give us another reason.
Yeah, imagine if you had to run 10 more races and you had to finish with you had to be in the top 10% or whatever. Now you're relegating 10%. But it happens to be you're relegating them off of.
I'll tell you what, we just had $1,000 of free races that mean hit or miss. If you made a couple bucks doing it, then
$1.20.
Was that you made $1.20?
Yeah.
See, that's the thing.
Like, I got into one,
and I got into like 13 races.
I was late.
I made about $20. I usually make it, and I actually said that. Like, I'll dox myself on this one. I actually said on the anonymous feedback, I was like, yeah, I made about $20. I usually make about $20. Is I guess my internet's fast and I can get into a lot of them, but I'm indifferent on them. They don't do a lot for me. I don't really care too much. I'm in there, and then I watch everyone else get upset, like they can't get in, and the CAPTCHA caught some people and didn't catch others. So take that $1,000, take that $1,000 and do what Sydney said, and give us a couple prize pools at the end that you can actually win $100 in this race,
or even like if it's an NFT, cool. You could sell it on the secondary, and people could buy them.
Hell yeah,
you know what would get people racing is if they had a day where there was just a few random races that got an increased bonus pool, and you didn't know what they were. You just had to race your all day to find out, and few random people would get with big pots.
I don't mind. That'd be all right.
The contract.
Smart contract. You'd have to change the ARG to spit out a random race like that. Right. But I like the idea. Definitely.
But still, there's ways to incentivize things down the line that'll work. And I was just thinking to myself, like, $1,000 on free races, cool. Like, I'm glad that they're throwing it back to us, but there has to be a better way to divvy that besides these little races. Love the idea from Sydney, and I love them to be able to maybe do some other things where they throw in, like, tournaments at the end, heads up kind of stuff. Like, what if they even just took the top 8 birds and just said, yep, we're going to run a tournament on these on the top 8 birds that made it. Just a quick, 2 bracket style tournament, heads up until we get ourselves a winner, or even just run it 8 bird race, 7 bird race, 6 bird race, 5 bird race, 4 bird race until there's one left. Like, I would love, and then that's the grand champion, and maybe they win something extra. Like, these little things are awesome.
You were the points champion, but then there's the championship itself.
Yeah, I like that. They always have something.
I like that.
Like, I know Hems brought up those thoughts too towards the end to create that extra kind of boost. I'm all about it, because with these type of setups, it's endless, and certainly there's a lot of people around here with the ideas that want to do it. Whether we can, whether the coding can make it work, we'll see. I mean, obviously that might take some time. We're not expecting this all overnight, but yeah, these are some things that really could go great in seasons to try to get us thinking about moving up and actually winning these things. Because I want to win. Eventually, I want to win a season, just to say that I did it, just to have that. But after I win one, what's the next reason to win the next? And you need to keep that stickiness moving forward. And
why would you ever race it again? You just got a champion.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, hopefully, you made a lot of money.
Right.
Right, you probably did, and that is a reason. But why? But wouldn't I rather just keep my bird? I made a lot of money in B class. I want to get my bird back to B class.
Make a lot of money. You see what I'm saying? If you just broke even, like, I can definitely see, like, what's the point in trying to do what's the point in grinding all that again? If I'm
there's ways you could stay in B if you do it smart. You do the cheap races in D class, or get low scores and then time it right and hit your bane on a bigger money race and make some money that way. If you do it smart and do it right, you could be able to hang out in classes and hit the threshold and just make money. I mean, I know there will be coops out there that'll be able to do it. It's just a matter of managing your birds.
Yeah, I think there's lots of ways to incentivize this. I'd be curious to see how they actually get implemented. But we're gonna have to see it, because I would hate to see. Okay, season 1, season 2, season 3, I get it. We're testing the system, we're working it out. We just want to see proof of concept, and then we can move from there.
Mm-hmm.
But I would hate to see the idea of the season not have that enthralling factor to it, of wanting to win and wanting to push forward. And like, yeah, there'll be plenty of people that just want to get their bird back down, but hopefully also this new system, as they implement it, will start stretching the POs back out again, where it isn't that easy to drop down, and maybe it isn't that profitable to drop your bird into a bottom spot and just have them run roughshod on C class. Maybe it won't work as easy as you think. I mean, I've had some birds that do really well in C. They get to D. I put them in 10 races. They win one of them.
Yeah,
it's very strange. Like there's different ways to do it, but it's very strange the way these birds like to run. And I really want to see what this looks like when birds start finding themselves in the classes that they can be most competitive in.
I agree. Well, good discussion this week, fellas.
60 minutes. Let's go. See you.
Yep, there it is.
Go to bed.
Hour on the money. Got to be quick tonight.
Yeah.
I got a lot of shit to do still. A lot of packing for the
Josh
next
is
couple
moving
days.
in 3 days.
Yep, moving in 3 days, and I'm like only about half packed. So, yeah. So that was our show tonight, and we look forward to seeing what comes next with Chicken Derby. Hopefully, we get some more videos of wearables in action, and hopefully get those bugs ironed out here in the week to come.
Private photo in the chat.
Ooh. Uh-oh.
The spam.
Get it. Get him. Put you on timeout. Get on out of here.
Anyway.
So, anyways, we are the Coop Collective. You can check us out in our Discord. The link's down there in the bottom of the video. Make sure you like and subscribe. Yeah, I am at Grateful Coops. We have at Pecking Order Racing, at MBF Express, and Water Racing Coop. You can find us in the Chicken Derby Discord as well. And this has been our show. We'll see you next week. Bye.
See ya.
Cock-a-doodle-doo. Moving sucks. 10 out of 10. Do not recommend.